So I just got done doing dog-on-dog introductions with 2 dogs at Shelby Humane that were iffy with other dogs. Shelby Humane's my local shelter. And I took 3 of the dogs that are currently at my house, 2 of which are legally mine. I've owned them for about 9 years. And the other one is a foster dog that I've had for about a week. And I've seen all 3 of these dogs, specifically my 2 of the 3, in lots of different dog situations, and I trust them. And I trust them all in different ways. And I am able to know so much about how they react to social experiences, to where I'm able to figure out which one of the 3 that I would introduce to a new dog that I expect to have a little bit of an issue. So as I was doing this today at Shelby Humane, I started to think a lot about how people would be viewing the dynamics between the dogs that I introduced. And a lot of people would say, well, you know, the dogs that I were introducing to my dogs would be dominants or alpha dogs, and my dogs were playing the submissive or the beta. And that kind of terminology is so fundamentally flawed in my opinion. And I think that people view aggression displays, like both of these shelter dogs had a history of doing with other dogs, as a way to communicate dominance or alpha status. And they think of these alpha dominant dogs as being like almost overly confident or arrogant, I think is what comes to mind when we're trying to add more adjectives to dogs like this. And for my dogs that would be viewed as being submissive or beta are also assigned adjectives like being a pushover, or meek, or weak even. And I think those adjectives are so fundamentally flawed, because when I see an aggressive display, that's not predatory. And so a lot of aggressive displays that people consider to be alpha or dominant are growls and barking and posturing and stuff. And that's not something that a predator ever does to a prey animal. So I'm not talking about predatory aggression. I'm talking about the more vocal aggression. I see that as a way for a dog to communicate that they need space. A way for a dog to communicate that they feel uncomfortable. And so the dogs like this can feel uncomfortable for a variety of different reasons. I think it all boils down to a feeling of stress, whether or not it's a fear of other dogs, whether or not it's a social anxiety, whether or not it's just over arousal, and so the dog has just this frazzled state of mind and doesn't really have the ability to form a logical thought, and so their social greetings kind of fall apart. And I definitely see this in lots of shelter dogs. The dogs that I introduced to mine today, I wouldn't say are fearful. I would say that they had more of that frustration, which led to being more aroused, overly aroused, or they were socially anxious. And so when I think about how people would characterize, again, those dogs as being dominant or alpha, I just see it totally different. I see my dogs greeting them and saying, and being very polite, because my dogs are very polite, and saying hello, and then getting that other dog's feedback. That other dog would say, hey, I need space. And my dogs are saying, yes, I can give it to you. I will give you space to make you feel more comfortable. And when I think of it in that way, it's hard for me to characterize a dog that is alpha or dominant or arrogant or overly confident as being one that really needs to request space in a social greeting without any resources around. So we're not resource guarding here. And I I think my dogs, the more socially skilled ones, are the ones that are actually more confident, because they're in a place where they're able to say, I feel confident enough in myself to give you something you can take from me because I have a lot to give. And I mean, I think of it like people. People that are stressed out, people that have anxieties, people that have mental illness, people that have chronic stress because of trauma, people that have post-traumatic stress disorder, all those things. They require a lot from other people to be made comfortable. And so just like people are asking other people for things, hey, person, friend, can you give me this to make me feel better? I think if a human saw a person do that, that human wouldn't look at that person asking for help as being arrogant or overly confident or an alpha dominant or a leader. They would look at that person requesting all of this space, asking constantly for people to give to them, almost as being insecure and weak on the inside. And I think that's what a lot of these dogs are that are aggressive in social greetings. They are so insecure and crumbly on the inside that they are just asking for resources from all these other dogs that are a little bit more socially confident than them. And if you have a dog like the 3 that I brought today that have a good enough foundation to where they're able to give, to where they, on a day-to-day basis in most situations, they are confident, they're going to be able to give more of themselves when another person says, hey, can I take this from you? And they're going to say yes. And so going back again to trying to paint this similar kind of conversation in a human world, if we saw a human say, yes, I can give you this. Just think of money. A person is asking for money. Hey, I need money because I'm losing my house and I can't afford to pay it. The person that gives them that money is the one that we view as being more of a leader, more of a confident person, more of an alpha, if you will. And I just wish that most people kind of saw it in that way in the dog world, because I think if they did, they would react to a dog's aggression a lot differently. Because a lot of these people that have dogs that are aggressive with other dogs, they punish their dog. And so if you're with me and you feel like these dogs are being aggressive because they lack some sort of confidence in social interactions, if your handler is punishing you for having social anxiety, your anxiety is just going to go up. Your fear of being in a social situation is just going to go up, and you're probably going to become even more aggressive towards other dogs. So I just wanted to share this kind of thought with you, this kind of beautiful little storyline that unfolded in my head as I was introducing some shelter dogs to my dogs today. And I hope that it kind of reframes your perspective on dog-to-dog interactions and maybe even people interactions. I just find all of this so very fascinating, and I love watching it happen. Thanks for listening to me.